As a therapist, I got a little bit of an issue with a woman who was sexually taken advantage of 30, 40 years ago when this man was at the top of his career. He was the most popular and powerful black celebrity at that time.
Yeah.
And you do not turn him in then? You wait 40 years later until he's old, and then all of a sudden you decide that now I'm going to bring this to justice. I think that, I can't say it's all unfair and unfactual, but I think that to an extent, what is happening to Bill Cosby is systematic of the white injustice that black people suffer from.
I agree with that too, because I don't care how rich and how powerful you are as a black man. If you rape a white woman, back then they would have loved to tear Bill down. So that's the part of me be like, I don't know how true all of this is.
But Bill Cosby learned what a lot of rich black people need to learn. That your money and your affluence and your ascension into mainstream white America does not change who you are. At the end of the day, none of us progress unless we all progress, which is why I say what must be done for black people has to be done by blacks. This is exactly why it must be us, because whenever you let non-Africans into the organization, we will automatically stop looking to them envy for support and help and assistance. This got to be done by us. Self-determination.
Let's end with a concrete solution.
Concrete solution is, number one, we have to march on the White House. Number two, we have to march on the United Nations. Number three, we're going to have to march on the African Union. And number four, we got to build black banks. Without black banks, you're not going to be able to finance a black infrastructure project within the black community. We have to build new black Wall Streets. And the way you do that is through black banks. So we all got to take our money out of all the major banks, put them into a black bank, and now we all have access to the capital we need.
That's what Killer Mike
Racism can only affect you to the extent that you are dependent on white folks for your survival in life.
And there you have it. My man, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Always great talking to you, bro.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.
All right, it's the Breakfast Club, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. We're about to get ready to do the world premiere of our film Resurrecting Black Wall Street in Chicago on Saturday at the Harold Washington Center. If you live anywhere on this planet, I guarantee you, no matter how far away you fly from, your life will be changed after this event is over. It's designed that way. We're definitely going for the jugular on this. And we titled the film Resurrecting Black Wall Street because we wanted to resurrect, just pull up, dig up the bodies, and find out what really happened. You know, make sure the truth is told. Make sure that people are no longer lied to. If you go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example, in the Greenwood section, you'll find black people who live in that area who are not even aware of the story and how extraordinary this is, how significant it was. And so we're trying to dig it up. We're trying to do the CSI and really talk about what happened, label it the right way. It was not a race riot, as they called it for many years. It was a massacre. It was where black people were massacred and butchered and killed and shot down in the street like dogs and put in prison. They went through unimaginable amounts of pain and misery. Imagine if somebody coming to your house right now and murdering your whole family and then telling the world that your family got out of line, that's why they had to kill everybody. And then nobody ever correcting this. You would want somebody to correct this falsehood and tell the truth. Would you not? Yes, you would. So that's what we're trying to do. That's one reason we're resurrecting Black Wall Street. The other thing we're trying to do is, and the film is actually called The Blueprint at the end. That's the subtitle. Excuse me. And we're resurrecting the blueprint. We're trying to say, you know, what did O.W. Gurley and these other individuals who built, John Stratford and others, what was their vision? What was their thinking when they created this extraordinary community? What can we all do as a community to build cooperative economic scenarios where we can prosper, we can be kings and queens, we can be strong, we can be prosperous, we can take care of each other, we can protect each other, etc., etc., etc. The answers are out there. We have to just be willing to dig and find the truth on these things. And so another thing that came up that led me to really think about, how we would want to rewrite history is this article in Jezebel, where there's an author who was writing for Harper's. His name is Dan Baum, and Dan actually quotes a guy named Ehrlichman, who was a member of the Nixon administration, Nixon policy advisor John Ehrlichman. And let me tell you what Ehrlichman said about the war on drugs. And the reason I have to take a deep breath is because it burns me up. It makes me want to grab somebody around the neck and choke them to death. It literally makes me want to kick somebody in the face. It makes me that mad. And I don't think that we have any reason to hide our anger because these are the people we love that they did this to. And I'm going to read to you what it says here. It says, they're talking about the war on drugs. The war on drugs that led to the mass incarceration of millions of black men, where Hillary Clinton's husband Bill participated in that war by increasing the sentences, creating mandatory minimums, sending tens of thousands of black men to prison, destabilizing millions of black families. That's who you're voting for. So when they say you have a choice, you don't have a damn choice. You have a choice between one white person who hates you and another white person who despises you. Those are your choices. But anyway, here's what it says. You want to know what this was really all about? He asked with the bluntness of a man after public disgrace and the stretch in federal prison had little to protect. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to either be against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt both communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. Now I want you to think about what was just said here. And I want you to think about your life right now. I want you to think about your family. Did you have anybody in your family that was ever hooked on drugs? Did you have anybody in your family who ever went to prison? Did you ever have anybody in your family who was maybe killed in drug-related violence? Did you ever have anybody in your family that was traumatized because they grew up in a household where there was a significant destabilization due to incarceration, drugs, or both? Any friends you have who ain't right in the head because that's what they went through? All of this was the result of social engineering that had devastation on a level that puts the Nazi Holocaust to shame. The only difference between what was done to black people and what was done to the Jews in World War II is that what was done to us has been repeated many times throughout history. It lasted far longer and it had a far broader reach than what happened in Nazi Germany. This was our Holocaust. The war on drugs was a Holocaust on top of a Holocaust because we had just finished with Jim Crow. Black people in the 60s had just started to gain pride in themselves, had just started to be able to stand up for themselves, had just started to counter the significant miseducation that they'd been fed for hundreds of years. And you know what? They said we can't have Negroes standing together. We can't have them believing in themselves. We can't have them fighting for any kind of equality. So we're going to disrupt them. We're going to drop drugs into their communities, and then we're going to arrest them for possessing the drugs.
Are you following me? How many people knew that? So what if they denied you the right to vote in 2007? Humphrey, brother, Elijah said, what if they deny you the right to vote? What's going to happen then? How are you going to select or elect your leaders? You don't do it anyway. But now they're going to take the right away for you to even have the illusion of electing a leader. Are you following me? Then what you going to do? Stay there, brother Elijah. I think you need to follow this man's advice and go buy you some weapons instead of trading them in and learn some damn self-defense because it's about to go down, for real. I'm going to say this for real. You'll probably only have one more election, one more good one selection, one more good one. And they're grooming the next president right now as we speak. And while they're grooming the next president, they're also in the smoke-filled back rooms. They call them the war rooms. Planning and plotting your death. Are you following me? Stop looking at TV as though that thing is going on foreign shows when it's about to go down here. They're planning for the big war here. Are you following me? This small group of people pulled off this 9/11 thing and you ain't said shit. Now, I'm not cursing. I got my mentor right over here. Shoot your strategic high-intensity training, all right? All right? So, he gave me permission to speak. I had a phone conversation with him the other day. I said, brother, give him flack for that. He said, don't worry about it. Point at me. So I'm pointing at brother with you.
They go, that's assault. Technically, that's assault to spit on a motherfucker. Okay? Now why that motherfucking cracker that spit on that, and he let the motherfucker. You understand what I'm saying? I don't understand that, motherfucker. If you got a little authority, motherfucker, this bitch spit on me. Get him. Okay? Didn't do shit. You understand? That show the weakness in us, man. Even when a nigga get a little position, he ain't, nigga, come on, man, boss the fuck up, man. And then, so this motherfucker ain't did no, so that's showing you how they feel. If they'll spit on your supposedly, he supposed to be elite. If they spit on an elite motherfucker, know how they feel about you and me. Know how they feel about you and me. So what do we do right now? We make a preparation. Motherfuckers got the ranks and files. We got to automatically say who is skilled in what. We don't put nothing on notes. We always generalize. We do the real talk when we get the fuck up out of here. But this is something for the family to build on. You got to start pinpointing what skills each individual has. So when the shit go down, you know who to say, take care of that, take care of that, take care of that. What is your motherfucking skills? Okay? And if you ain't got none, you got to be like my man on Rosewood, Big Baby. He said, I shoot.
Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power.
Stokley Carmichael, a 25-year-old revolutionary born in the West Indies, educated at the best high school in New York, a college graduate with a degree in philosophy. It was here in Mississippi this summer that Carmichael, with his cry for black power, first became a national figure, and to many, a frightening one.
Every courthouse in Mississippi ought to be burned down tomorrow to get rid of the dirt in here. Now, from now on, when they ask you what you want, you know what to tell them. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Everybody, what do you want? That's what we gonna get.
I talked with Stokley Carmichael one night earlier this month in Atlanta. He wore an African toga given him by Sekou Touré of Guinea. A reminder, he said, of his African heritage.
I think that there's a realization in this country that black power is not just a mere slogan, nationally or internationally. It is real that black people can come together and start determining for their lives how they're going to live and controlling their economic and political lives.
Well, why talk about dynamite sticks if Molotov cocktails won't work? When you talk of black power, building a movement that will smash everything that Western civilization has created, when you say that black power should bring the country to its knees anytime it messes with the black man, and these are quotes from Stokley Carmichael, the picture has got to be, in the mind of white man and black man, one of a man who threatens violence.
On the contrary, if you say that you have to bring the country to its knees if it messes with a black man, you're saying that the only protection for black people is that they unite. So that when one black man is touched because he's black, there's some protection for him. Now, it's obvious that that protection does not exist in this country. It does not now exist. And the only people who can have that protection are black people. And black people know that. Now, white people may not know that. So it means that you have to build a movement so strong in this country that if one black man is touched, every black man will rise up and let this country know they're not going to tolerate it.
If one black man is touched.
That's right, because he's black. I mean, if a black man is walking down the streets of Mississippi, down the highway with a Bible in his hand, he is shot because he is black.
That's one incident.
I could name you a lot of others, and you know that yourself.
In the northern ghettos,
if one black man in California is driving his pregnant wife to the hospital and he is shot by a white racist policeman, I can name you more incidents.
then you're saying fight violence with violence.
I am saying that we must build a movement of black people that will protect ourselves so that we are willing to stop that by any means necessary. Now, I'm not concerned about the question of violence. It seems to me that that will depend upon how, in fact, white people respond. If white people, in fact, are willing not to bother with black people because they are black, then there's going to be no question of violence.
When you read stories about difficulties, riots in Omaha or Cleveland or Brooklyn or Chicago or wherever,
I call them rebellions.
they're rebellions.
That's right.
And you see nothing wrong with them?
I think that people who are rebelling against a system that has locked them inside tight of ghettos, that exploits and oppress them, and they have no means of redress to break that system down. We intend to build within black people the realization that that problem is not theirs, it's created by white society. It's purposely created by white society, and then they throw it back on us and blame us. That's the first thing we have to create in black people. Then secondly, we have to move to a position where we can control the housing in our neighborhoods so that we're not exploited, so that we're not charged high rents to share apartments with rats, and so that the owners of those apartments don't live in the suburbs grabbing the profits from us, that we're able to grab it, and that the money will be able to stay in our community so we can develop it. It is no different from a colony in Africa who is supposedly free, but her resources are controlled by the mother country. They have to move to a position to control the resources, and having done that, their problems are already solved.
And the means that you will use to achieve all of this?
Any means necessary.
Well, I know, but now, well, spell that out. What does that mean?
It means that we will develop tactics as we go along, and whatever those tactics are, we will use them.
Tactics? That means you've got to buy the buildings. You've got to start the businesses. You've got to train the people. How are you going to do that by yourselves? How are you going to do it without the help of the white community?
Well, the first help we need of the white community is just to turn over those buildings to us.
Turn them over?
That's correct. Turn them over.
Do you think that's likely, Mr. Carmichael?
Well, you asked me what help we wanted white people to give. They could buy it for us.
You mean Washington would buy it from, let's say, the slumlord and turn it over to you?
That's correct.
You believe really that that is the salvation of the black man?
I think that this country is run by property ownership, and that black people are not only propertyless, they are viewed as property. And we have to move to a position of property ownership in this country so that we can bargain from a position of strength with racists rather than a position of weakness.
You're one black man who went to a good, essentially white high school in the city of New York.
That's
you
correct.
Obviously had had a good education. A good many of the people who work with you here in SNCC can say the same thing.
And we're saying that,
And you're a black man who came from a New York ghetto.
and we're saying that there's a system that allows for 1 or 2 black people to get out, and that's the rationale for keeping other black people down.
And it has nothing to do with the unwillingness or inability of the Negro to help himself and to work hard.
That's the rationale, that the reason why black people aren't this is because they're lazy, unambitious, stupid, have rhythm, and they eat watermelon.
You call on the black man to refuse to respond to his draft call.
That is correct. And we will continue to do so while there's breath in our bodies.
Do you really believe that the military policies of the United States are designed to exterminate the black man, as you've said?
I most certainly do. I look at the recent statement by racist McNamara, who says that 30% of the people that are going to be drafted now under his new system are going to be black people. And that's nothing more than black urban removal.
The white liberal who supported civil rights for so long with time and effort and money, what is your feeling about him?
I think that there's no reason why they should stop supporting the movement now. I certainly feel that if they're genuinely interested in black people, and since black people have charted a course, they believe in that program, they will continue to give to it. They need more white people to civilize whites. They need them to civilize the savages in Cicero, who throw rocks and bricks at a peaceful and lovable black man like Dr. Martin Luther King, who would not even hurt a fly. And that's very important, because our uncles and our fathers and our older brothers died in World War I fighting Nazism to protect the Poles, and those same Poles turn around and throw rocks and bricks at us after we died to save their lives. And people talk about we are savages.
Mr. Carmichael, if you had the chance to stand up in front of the white community and say anything you desired, say to them, understand me, white man, what would you say?
I would say, understand yourself, white man, that the white man's burden should not have been preached in Africa, but it should have been preached among you. That you need now to civilize yourself. You have moved to destroy and disrupt. You have taken people away. You have broken down their systems. And you have called all that civilization. And we who have suffered at this are now saying to you, you are the killers of the dreams. You are the savages. Yes, it is you who have always been uncivilized. Civilize yourself.
This young man who calls upon the white man to civilize himself had a radical effect on the civil rights.
Well, what he says right now, because now it ain't even about him no more. It's about securing the presidency for the Democratic Party. So when Obama, and simply put, Obama more concerned with Hillary getting in that seat than he's concerned about black people staying alive. Now, okay. Let me say this real quick. We have to have a public boycott against President Obama. A lawful public boycott against the president where he is publicly criticized by black people for doing nothing for them for 8 years. If you do not do this, our grandchildren will suffer for it, because he'll be the first president to escape black ridicule, having not done anything for us. That is a serious paradigm shift if we let him leave that office with no public criticism. Number two, we have to have a demonstration, and we must publicly criticize the United Nations Office of Human Rights, because the United States government is guilty of crimes against humanity. They have constantly violated the Human Rights Convention of the UN without any repercussion from the world's governing body. So we got to go down to the UN and demonstrate. Okay? Number three, we need to take America to world court, charge them with genocide. The Geneva Convention of the 1940s clearly describes what genocide is. It is any systematic program put in place that seeks to harm in part or whole an entire group of people that manifests itself as unfair treatment, unnecessary homicide, okay, or any other quality of life issue that significantly diminishes that people's ability to live a comfortable life. America is guilty of genocide. America is guilty of war crimes against black people, and America has consistently violated the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. I'm saying that what we need to do is we have to stop fighting this issue as a civil rights issue, which puts us under the jurisdiction of America's